Two powers stand at opposite ends of eternity. One, the morning star Lucifer, once radiant in heaven, now fallen like lightning, as Isaiah 14 records, building a kingdom of fire and vengeance in the abyss. The other, Azazel, the forbidden teacher named in the Book of Enoch, who gave humanity secrets never meant to be known, now forging his own order in the shadows of hell. They were not created to meet as equals, yet here they stand, pride against purpose, rebellion against vision. This is not simply myth. It's the ultimate collision of two fallen angels, whose paths could only end in confrontation. One burns to reclaim heaven, the other dreams of remaking hell. And between them lies a throne, carved in darkness, waiting for a ruler who may never deserve it. What does this struggle reveal about power, about ambition, about the cost of rebellion? Stay with me as we step into the silence before their war, where every demon holds its breath and even hell itself trembles. The silence before the war. Imagine a realm built on screams suddenly falling quiet. In hell, silence is unnatural. The abyss thrives on torment, on endless roars of hatred. Yet in this moment, everything stilled. Ancient demons paused mid-strike. The very air, usually heavy with fire, seemed to hold its breath. Why? Because two forces equal in power yet opposite in vision were about to meet. Pride stood on one side, vengeance burning in his chest. Purpose stood on the other, ambition etched in every step. The question hung over the abyss. Like a storm cloud, can chaos ever crown a king? Or will every throne forged in hell be bought with endless blood? That tension electrified the atmosphere, a tension every soul in torment could feel but not explain. The battlefield had not yet been chosen, but the war was already alive in every whisper, every gaze, every expectation. This silence was not peace. It was the pause before eruption, the deep inhale before a roar shakes the heavens and the abyss alike. And in that stillness, the question of destiny sharpened. Who would break the quiet? Who would claim the right to rule? Lucifer, the radiant one, turned rebel. Long before he was called Satan, Lucifer was described in Scripture as the morning star, son of the dawn. Isaiah 14:12. Ezekiel 28 paints the picture of a being perfect in beauty, clothed in precious stones, walking in the fiery courts of heaven itself. Factually, the Bible affirms he was exalted, radiant, and entrusted with great responsibility. Tradition adds detail. Some Jewish and Christian writings speak of him as heaven's choir master, music flowing from his very being, light woven into his form. But even among perfection, pride can grow. The prophet Isaiah describes the inner voice of rebellion. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. That seed of arrogance transformed admiration into envy, service into defiance. Here lies the tragedy. He was not cast down because of weakness, but because of greatness corrupted. Consider for a moment, have you ever felt overlooked, undervalued, convinced you deserved more? That emotion, though small in us, burned like wildfire in Lucifer. And when it reached its height, heaven thundered with judgment. He was cast down, lightning across the sky, stripped of glory, yet not of power. In the abyss, he built a throne of fire, not as a kingdom of joy, but as a war room for revenge. This is where the mystery deepens. Lucifer never wanted hell. To him, hell was only a staging ground, a bitter fortress from which to launch his return. Every whisper of temptation, every soul led astray, every demon gathered beneath his banner, all were pawns in his long game against the throne of God. Yet while he looked upward burning for heaven, another was watching him with disdain from the shadows below. Azazel, the forbidden teacher. Unlike Lucifer, whose story is grounded in canonical scripture, Azazel's name emerges from ancient traditions that linger on the edges of the biblical world. In Leviticus 16, the Day of Atonement ritual describes a scapegoat sent to Azazel into the wilderness, a practice scholars still debate. Some interpreting it as a symbol of sin's removal, others seeing it as a hint of a darker being. The Book of Enoch goes further, presenting Azazel as one of the leaders of the Watcher's angels, commanded to observe humanity but never to interfere. Instead, he descended with 200 others, teaching mankind secrets never meant to be revealed. The text describes how Azazel showed humans how to forge weapons of war, how to adorn themselves with cosmetics, how to summon with enchantments. It was knowledge that brought both power and corruption. Humanity, hungry for more, embraced it like forbidden fruit. And in that exchange, innocence was shattered. Historically, many scholars see this tale as reflecting humanity's dangerous pursuit of knowledge without wisdom, an echo of the ancient fear that too much power too quickly gained can destroy. But the story does not end with his descent. According to Enoch, Azazel was bound in chains, cast into darkness, and punished for his corruption. Yet even from imprisonment, his influence lived on. Knowledge once taught could not be unlearned. In this way, Azazel became something different from Lucifer. Where Lucifer's rebellion was open, defiant, and cosmic, Azazel's was subtle, viral, and enduring. He was not fighting to return to heaven. He was shaping what lay beneath. And so while Lucifer built a throne of fire, Azazel forged a vision of order. A kingdom not obsessed with revenge, but with control. A realm where rebellion itself became structure. It was this difference, loud pride versus quiet purpose, that set the stage for a collision neither could avoid. Factions in hell order versus chaos. Every kingdom eventually divides, and hell was no exception. On one side stood Lucifer, surrounded by his old guard demons, forged in fire warriors of rage, loyal not out of love, but out of fear and the promise of power. On the other side, in hidden caverns, away from the burning throne, Azazel gathered the disillusioned. They called themselves the Flame of Order Fallen Watchers, restless spirits of the Nephilim, and demons who had grown weary of Lucifer's endless obsession with heaven. Imagine what that must have felt like, living under a ruler who burns century after century for a war that never comes, a leader who cares more about revenge than those who follow him. Have you ever worked beneath someone so consumed by their own battles that they forgot yours? That frustration, multiplied across legions, became Azazel's weapon. He spoke of structure, legacy, and stability, promises that sounded almost like hope in a place where hope was dead. But hell's order was never meant to be peace. Azazel's vision was not freedom, but control. It was rebellion with rules of throne that demanded silence instead of fire. And slowly whispers spread through the underworld. Maybe chaos had burned long enough. Maybe it was time for something new. This was the fracture the moment hell turned inward. No longer united in rage, its armies were split, one eye turned upward toward heaven, the other sideways toward a different throne. And as those whispers grew, a spark was waiting to ignite them into open war. The spark of war. It began not with armies marching or horns sounding, but with one ambush in the shadows. Rahab, the serpent of the sea, and one of Lucifer's fiercest generals, was delivering orders through the lower realms when it struck. Out of the darkness came a blade of black obsidian forged from the very secrets Azazel once gave to mankind. It pierced her wings, and when her blood touched the ground, the earth itself hissed and smoked. Rahab lived, but her humiliation screamed louder than any death could. The message was clear: Lucifer was not untouchable. The tremor of that strike spread like fire across the abyss. Demons who had sworn loyalty to Lucifer began to whisper. Could he really be challenged? Could another claim the throne? And all the while, Azazel's movement grew bolder. Weapons once hidden were drawn. Sigils of forbidden knowledge burned onto armor. Caverns once filled with whispers now echoed with the silent march of soldiers preparing for something hell had never known: organized rebellion. And when word reached Lucifer, hell itself seemed to hold its breath again. He did not rage as his generals expected. He did not roar or strike down the messenger. Instead, he smiled. To him, Azazel was just another fallen shadow, another fool who mistook whispers for strength. But that smile was his greatest mistake. For Azazel was not whispering anymore. He was arming. He was waiting. And soon the throne would be contested not in secret, but before the eyes of all of hell. The Battle of Thrones. The day came when hell itself became a stage. Ancient writings described Lucifer's fall as lightning from heaven, Luke 10:18. But here in the depths another storm was gathering. Two armies stood across the lake of shadows, the ground seething with molten fire, the sky blackened with cursed lightning. On one side was Lucifer wings, scorched, but eyes burning like collapsed stars. Around him gathered the old guard, Beelzebub, Abaddon, Leviathan, the demons who had shared his fury since the beginning. On the other side, Azazel appeared, in obsidian armor, etched with forbidden inscriptions, his jagged wings spread wide. Behind him stood the fallen watchers, the restless spirits of the Nephilim and demons tired of chaos without end. This was no mere battle for territory. It was a contest of visions. Lucifer fought with raw primal force, every strike of his sword splitting the air as if creation itself trembled. His rebellion was punishment, made flesh his fury a living storm. Azazel fought with strategy, every move precise, every counter drawn from the knowledge he once stole. Where Lucifer burned, Azazel calculated. Where Lucifer roared, Azazel whispered. And for a time, the two seemed locked in balance. Yet this was more than war. It was prophecy in motion, a mirror of what happens when pride and purpose collide. Neither truly innocent, neither worthy of the throne, and yet both consumed by the belief that they alone should rule. And here lies the spiritual warning. When we chase power without wisdom, when we cling to ambition without humility, we mirror the same tragedy that unfolded in the abyss. The demons fell silent, not out of loyalty, but awe, for they were not watching a ruler and a rebel. They were witnessing reflections of themselves, pride twisted into fury, knowledge twisted into control. And though the clash raged with fire and steel, it was only building towards something darker, something final. The final clash. The battle reached its breaking point when Lucifer's blade tore into Azazel's shoulder, spilling fire instead of blood. The watchers gasped as their leader dropped to one knee. But even in pain, Azazel laughed, mocking the morning star with words that cut deeper than steel, still trying to destroy what you do not understand. For a moment it seemed that strategy might triumph over fury. Azazel's forbidden magic bound Lucifer's wings and drew black blood from his side. Demons who had once feared Lucifer now whispered, Could the unthinkable happen? Could the throne fall? But then came the moment no one expected. Lucifer revealed the last spark of angelic brilliance still hidden within him. Corrupted, tainted, but undeniably divine, it blazed across the battlefield with a light so terrible that even demons turned away in agony. Azazel screamed, not from fear, but from fury at the reminder of what had been lost. That light was not victory. It was a wound, a revelation that both of them, no matter how powerful, were still echoes of what they once were. With a force like 1,000 stars, Lucifer drove Azazel into the black stone beneath the throne. The ground cracked open, and for a heartbeat, silence returned. Azazel lay broken, armor shattered, yet his eyes still burned. Lucifer stood above him, and in his voice there was something unheard before regret. You could have ruled beside me. But Azazel spat back with defiance. I never wanted to rule beside you. I came to replace you. Lucifer turned away, not in mercy, but in recognition. Killing Azazel would not end the rebellion, it would only forge a martyr. The battle was over, but the war in truth had only begun. And perhaps that is where the deepest reflection lies. Have you ever fought for something so long you forgot why you began? Have you looked into your rival's face and seen your own reflection staring back? That is the tragedy of these two fallen angels. Their war was never about truth, never about justice. It was about power, and power alone cannot heal what pride has broken. In the end, the story of Lucifer and Azazel is not about who sat upon a throne of fire, but about what happens when pride and ambition become the only guiding light. Neither truly won, because rebellion built on self cannot last. Their struggle is a mirror held up to us, showing the dangers of chasing power without purpose, or clinging to ambition without humility. Perhaps the real throne of hell is not carved from stone at all, but from the choices made when we forget who we were created to be. And that is where the mystery becomes personal. How often do we in our own lives fight battles that leave us empty, driven more by the need to prove ourselves than by the call to live with grace and wisdom? Have we ever lost sight of the reason we started, only to realize we were contending with reflections of our own flaws? These are questions that stretch beyond angels and into the human heart. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. If this exploration stirred something in you, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who also seeks hidden truths, and subscribe so you don't miss the next mystery that lies waiting in Scripture and tradition. Until then, may you walk with clarity, may your battles lead you not to pride, but to peace, and may the mysteries of heaven continue to guide your steps. I'll see you again soon.